Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Live with Chatufa. We are here giving you information about what is happening in the country, in our neighboring countries, as well as all over the world. Most of the issues that we discuss here are issues that are pertaining to the environment of politics and, of course, our social life, and quite a lot to touch with the religious settings that we are seeing around us. And with Kagame romping to victory again in Rwanda, we are looking at what really is happening in Rwanda. Paul Kagame has been in power for more than a quarter of a century, and we are looking at what is happening in Rwanda from the time that Rwanda suffered the 1994 genocide. That was a very painful time for Rwanda, but fortunately, they managed to come out of their doldrums. And this is quite a historic moment for Rwanda, where they managed to come out of such kind of disasters, because we are looking at countries that are failing to move on from disasters that have happened in the past. So that on its own, when we look at it, is a plus for the Rwandan people compared to what is happening in other countries, especially our own country, Zimbabwe, where the story of Gukurahundi still remains as an issue. The story of Mrambatrina, the story of the 2008 violence still remains a problem up to today. And we don't have leaders who are ready to solve issues and to bring peace and reconciliation back to the nation. The news hawks report that the Rwandan president, Paul Kagame, has won an overwhelming landslide with 99.15% of the vote in yesterday's presidential election to extend his 24-year rule into a fourth term by 5 years. About 9 million voters out of 14 million voters were eligible to vote, and the turnout was said to be 98%. However, only two insignificant opposition candidates with no real profile were allowed to run. By contrast, Zimbabwe has a population of 16 million people, 6.6 million registered voters, and had a voter turnout of 69% in the last year presidential elections. There are different perspectives on Kagame. That is what he represents and the impact of his rule. To some, Kagame is regarded both as a hero who ended the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda and rebuilt his country to become a successful story in Africa. Yet to others, he is a dictator who rules with an iron fist and responsible for serious human rights violations at home and abroad. What is not in doubt, however, is that Rwanda has emerged from the quagmire of war and rubble of genocide to become a better country on a continent riddled with conflict, particularly ethnic and resource-based killings, underdevelopment, disease, and poverty. Africa is resource-rich but poor, mainly due to its historic colonialism, leadership, governance, and policy failures, as well as corruption and looting. So this exactly is just a summary of exactly what I was talking about, which we are seeing happening in Rwanda. At least we say Rwanda, they came out in a better way, where they managed to solve their historic differences and the fights that happened in the past, which is what is dragging most countries back into the history, and people are failing to move on. People are failing to reconcile because of the ills of the past, and that on its own doesn't make a very healthy state. So we are saying Paul Kagame, while of course he is looked at as somebody who is crushing his opponents, but the way that he's handling the issues in his Rwanda and the development that he has allowed to come to Rwanda, I think is the most important thing, because generally speaking, I don't think majority of the people are really worried about who is in power or things like that. People are worried about whether a government is able to provide. The basic commodities must be affordable, basic services for the people must be available, and the country must be looking, going in the right direction, developing, people getting employment. You remember Kagame has called out on Zimbabwean teachers, and quite a lot of Zimbabwean teachers have applied to go to Rwanda and teach in Rwanda. It means, the conditions will be much better there, and opportunities are even much better when you go there. You could go there and study and continue studying. It's an environment that can allow you to continue studying with a normal economy, an affordable economy. You can even sponsor your education, advance yourself even further. Although it might look silly to go there, but I'm telling you, it's a better place for somebody who may want to advance in terms of studying and working and studying at the same time, and also an environment where you can keep even your family, eating and feeding well, your children going to school, maybe even normal schools, unlike what we are seeing happening in our own country. So we say kudos to Rwanda. Of course, we have not heard of any complaints about the election. We have not heard of any riggings. I don't just understand how they do it in Rwanda. You don't hear complaints coming out of any rigging. You don't hear of intimidation of voters, or the frog marching of voters that we see ZANU-PF and FAS doing. Although the election doesn't seem a proper election, where somebody would come up with 99% as a winning percentage. It really doesn't sound like a proper election. But you don't hear of rigging, you don't hear of complaints, you don't hear of any observers of the elections saying that things did not go well. So we just don't know how they do their things. Kagame coming back and leading, then it's fine. If Kagame is also doing good for the Rwandan population, and they see that he is definitely working to improve their lives, to make their lives much better, and then kudos. I don't think anybody would complain about that. That would be a positive thing, a positive direction. So the other things about politics definitely are really needed to be left to politics and politicians, especially if they are affording to give a good life to the citizens. I don't think citizens are that much worried about the politicians. So politicians can squabble on their own there, but as long as the people are and they receive what they want, the hospitals are working, roads are working, the towns are smart, water, clean water is there, electricity is available, people are getting employed, factories are opening up, industry is growing, and the rest of the other things. I don't think the masses would really be worried about politics. I think that's why even when Kagame comes back and wins again, we don't hear any uprising, any demonstrations, or any kind of complaints that come. I think the people of Rwanda are busy rebuilding their lives. They are looking forward, and indeed, their efforts are paying out. They are seeing their lives getting better and better and better. And that's what removes people from politics. It's unlike what ZANU-PF wants to do, to force people out of politics, and yet the same politics is the one that is bringing hunger to the people. People will flock to politics and want to find out who is causing our problems, who is running the country, how are they running the country. People will want to find out, and automatically you start to have pressure as a government from the people and the masses, and then ZANU-PF gets angry and start to want to fight against the citizens, arresting people, killing people, and the things like that. And we've had the people like Timba now being in prison, and ZANU-PF refusing. Mnangagwa is refusing to take them out of prison. So we are going to be talking about that again in the upcoming show. Otherwise, this is what it is, family. Thank you so much for joining me on this show. For those that have not subscribed, subscribe to the channel so you can continue to receive news each time that we are live. Remain blessed.